$3 billion gone, just to leave California. That is what it cost Phillips 66 to abandon a century-old refinery, dumping more cash into exit fees and toxic cleanup than building anything new. 2 days after Governor Newsom signed a sweeping new law, the company chose a staggering loss rather than endure the regulatory grip. Why would a profitable giant take this hit? And what does Newsom refuse to admit? The collapse began with one signature. What happened in those 48 hours changed everything. Spread across 650 acres, in the heart of Southern California, the Phillips 66 Los Angeles refinery was more than just an industrial complex. It was the backbone of the region's fuel supply for over a century. The Carson site covered 235 acres, while Wilmington added another 424, and both were linked by a 5-mile pipeline that pulsed with gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. At its peak, the facility processed 139,000 barrels per day, accounting for nearly 1 out of every 12 gallons refined in California. Generations of workers kept the refinery running around the clock. 600 employees and 300 contractors maintained the operation, and many spent their entire careers within these gates. Since the early 1920s, the refinery fueled the rise of Los Angeles, powering everything from delivery trucks to the city's endless lines of cars. The site's vast tanks, towers, and pipelines formed a skyline of their own, a constant presence near the port of Los Angeles. Its scale and complexity made it one of the most important refineries on the West Coast, quietly shaping the daily lives of millions. For decades, the refinery's output fed not just local demand, but also supplied fuel to neighboring states, linking California's economy to the broader Southwest. The sheer physical and economic weight of this operation set the stakes for what was lost when Phillips 66 decided to walk away. On October 14, 2024, Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB X-21 into law, giving the California Energy Commission sweeping control over refinery operations. The bill required every refinery in the state to maintain a minimum supply of fuel on site at all times, with the threat of million-dollar penalties for falling short. For Phillips 66, compliance meant building hundreds of millions of dollars worth of new storage tanks and tying up even more capital in inventory, costs that would hit instantly, not over years. 2 days later, Phillips 66 released a terse statement. The Los Angeles refinery would close by the end of 2025. The official line blamed market dynamics and long-term uncertainty, but the timing left little doubt about the real trigger. No other state demanded such costly inventory mandates, and no other refinery in Phillips 66's national portfolio faced a bill like the one just signed in Sacramento. The abruptness of the decision caught workers and local officials off guard. Only 48 hours separated Newsom's signature from the closure announcement, a window too narrow for coincidence. A BX-21 minimum storage rule was not just another line in a thick rulebook. It was a financial shockwave that made continued operation nearly impossible. The law's text was dry and bureaucratic, but for the people running California's oldest refinery, it landed like a final notice. The aftermath would demand a closer look at the real cost of staying and the math behind $3 billion to escape. Phillips 66's decision to abandon its Los Angeles refinery came with a staggering financial reckoning, spelled out in black and white across quarterly filings and investor calls. The company booked $908 million in losses on the refinery itself, an instant write-down of assets that for decades had been the backbone of Southern California's fuel network. $246 million in accelerated depreciation reflected equipment and infrastructure suddenly stripped of future value. Decommissioning the sprawling complex required another $231 million, covering dismantling costs and pipeline removals. Environmental remediation, just the initial phase, added $70 million, while legal obligations for asset retirement added $30 million. The largest single non-impairment charge was a $605 million legal accrual, mostly tied to federal litigation over years of wastewater violations. All told, direct Los Angeles exit charges topped $2 billion. But this was just one part of a broader $3 billion asset disposition program, as Phillips 66 moved to erase its entire California refining footprint. No buyer stepped forward, despite the prime port of Los Angeles location and functional equipment. A silent verdict on the site's regulatory baggage. Elliott Investment Management, led by Paul Singer, had acquired a 2.